Hello, everyone. We are from the Wellness Center. My name's Chaz, one of the wellness coaches here, and we are going around presenting just some different couple of health topics, and the four core principles that we preach a lot of times here in the Wellness Center. And the one that we're going to be talking about today is nutrition, and specifically how nutrition is the best medicine. So to emphasize this and introduce this, we'll talk about two different quotes. So the first one comes from Hippocrates. It says, "Let food be thy medicine, and medicine be thy food." And the other one comes from Michael Pollan. He says, "Eat food, not too much, and mostly plants." And this is based off a documentary they did called "In Defense of Food," which further explains some of these topics that we'll talk about today. So if this piques your interest and you want to learn more, you can check out that documentary. It's on Netflix, and I think a variety of other platforms that you can check out. So first, let's talk about analogy. So imagine that you run out of the gas. There's no gas station in sight, but you do have a bottle of Coke, and you think that maybe if you add a little bit to the tank, that won't saturate the gas too much, but it should keep the car running for longer. So what you do is you add a little bit of Coke, and you keep driving, and the car kind of starts sputtering a little bit, but it's running okay. And so you add a little bit more, starts sputtering more, you add more and more and more to the point where the car stops running, right? It can't run anymore. And you have to actually go in and replace parts to get it running again, even with new gas put in. Now that is how food works in our bodies. The more and more junk that we put into our bodies, the worse and worse our bodies run. Then we get to a point where different parts need to be replaced, right? We have different surgeries, and we have to go on these different things so that we can become well again. So think about that as you think about fueling your body with nutrition and food. Think about that analogy in the same place and see if that helps you make better choices. I like the depiction here on the left. I think it explains it pretty well. It says what we eat a lot of the times depends on how we feel, and that can give us the diseases that we have. Not all diseases, but in some cases this can be very true. So as we look here to these other graphics, this can explain that a little bit more. So what's interesting here in the U.S., we're seeing a trend in two different things. We're seeing a trend of chronic diseases go up and up each year, and we're also seeing a trend where the amount of processed food is being exported and brought here to the United States. I'm not saying these correlate perfectly, but it's interesting to look at those two things and see maybe there is something to those things. Also, above gives just a quick idea of what some basic chronic diseases are, if you're drawing a blank on what maybe some different chronic diseases are to think about. And sometimes it's interesting as we research this, even some doctors will argue that if they were stuck on an island, deserted island, and they could only bring one thing they would bring to treat diseases, they'd bring food. So that's pretty powerful. So think about that. So, like Michael Pollan said, let's look at the couple things he talked about. So first, he talked about eat food, real food. So when you're shopping or when you're eating, ask yourself, who made this food? Did man make it? Did it come from the earth? Or did it come from the earth? If you're having trouble finding the real foods in the store as you're shopping, shop the outside perimeters of the store. I think you've probably heard this tip before, but that's where a lot of the real food is, that you can identify it. So if you can't identify where the food came from, then it's probably not real food. Next, he talks about not too much. The amount of food we eat as Americans has increased drastically over the years. In most cases, our portions have doubled in size in just the last 20 years. Just think about when you go to the movie theater. they'd offer you a bucket of popcorn. Think about that, a bucket of popcorn, like a bucket of chicken some restaurant you go to. And then top that off, they offer you a free refill of that bucket of popcorn. So think about that portrait size. Look at these couple depictions. Talk about the size of a dinner plate, the size of food. I mean, I think we can, as we look back, we can, if we think about this, we realize that the amount of food is increasing. One way to combat that is to slow down how long it takes us to eat. If we can eat a little bit slower, then our body has a chance to register how full we are. So try taking 15-20 minutes to eat your food and see if that makes a difference for you or notice a difference. The next one's mostly plants. There's a lot of different recommendations in there about how much we should be eating our vegetables. One recommendation that was backed by science-based said we should be consuming 70-80% of our diet from plants. Now I know that can seem dramatic or drastic, but start somewhere. Don't feel like you have to jump right there. Maybe if you're eating 0 vegetables, just eating 1 a day is somewhere to start. So don't feel overwhelmed by all this information, but just know this is kind of the gold standard. This is what you should be shooting for. So start today by eating just a little bit more. How can I fit veggies more in my day so that I can feel better? I promise if you start eating more of those veggies, you'll start feeling better immediately because you'll be getting more of your micronutrients in. Then I love this quote. This is the difference between who you are and who you want to be is what you do. So rather than making this just another presentation that you've heard on wellness or on really anything in general, make it a time to make some changes so that you can achieve what goals you want. Even if it's not, you don't care about wellness, you don't care about health, maybe you care about your job, maybe you care about performance. Think about how those things are related and how you can start making changes today to eat real food, not too much, and mostly plants. Thank you.